Yugi's legendary monsters are trying to break the meta. We have Tempai Dragons, Ritual Beast. You know, the meta is interesting right now. Make sure you guys smash the link crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more content. So starting things off here, we have this Yugi pile getting 4th place out of its event here, showcasing some of the actual power that you get with Yugi's sub-engine of searchability in here. Now, the things I find very interesting about this list is the inclusion of the Magician Souls in here to basically get through Illusion of Chaos and basically start turning in some of these little extra spell cards into maybe some sort of advantage tree along the way. You're also playing punishments, so you actually have some defensive options. Having messed around with the Yugi deck, I kind of do feel that punishment is a pretty strong card to make sure that you can do your thing. But the thing that's going to help this deck out is hand traps, hand traps, hand traps. I just find it very interesting their ratios that they chose to play in here for the hand traps, opting for like 2 to 1 for a majority of these. Next up is Tenpai Gas the deck. Yeah, so this is going second simulator here. You do see that this build is playing one of the new spell card that allows you to basically activate cards up to what your opponent controls, giving you some options to excavate and at least find a different option. And then Blaster kind of moved on into this deck. Blaster has been a huge help for this deck. You know, Blaster's entire game plan here, you want to make sure you can smash through whatever your opponent's setting up for these big boards. And, I mean, pitching a free fire monster from your hand, oh, and I can revive the Blaster as a stepping stone if, you know, I really need. It depends on which mode of Blaster you need to go on, because it's not like you can't discard the Blaster off of the field spell anyway, but do I need the pop, or do I need Blaster to be a body on the field to burst down some extra damage? But either way, strong resources. Lightning Storm, Raigeki, side deck down here. You have Mind Control. This deck is actually pretty insane. Alright, we have Ritual Beast. Holy crap, man. I can't tell you how much I actually enjoy seeing this deck. It does kind of feel more like a Dimensional Shifter turbo deck some days, but I think that's fine. You know, you kind of got to understand that, like, this deck feels kind of fragile in itself, but if it's able to resolve and start climbing up and doing some interesting things, double E-Telly, 1 Pot of Prosperity, I feel like this deck, I know the TCG probably try more Pot of Prosperity. You gotta remember it's limited to 1 in the OCG. We're only playing 1 copy of the Trap card, and we're also only playing, we really only playing 2 Kanahawk. I guess we've reached the point with this deck's life cycle that you don't have to play multiple Kanahawks. That's kind of interesting to see, at least in terms of your developments out here, but interesting just to see what you can kind of expect for this deck to be unraveled. And winning our event here was actually Runick with the TCG special, as we're going to call this. You know, this deck getting the chance to basically roll through your opponent's deck. Only 1 copy of Fountain, though. That's something that you've definitely got to work on out here if you're trying to play this deck, because not being able to access the Fountain cycling options, or, you know, your opponent cosmics the Fountain, big sad every day. But I mean, you're basically relying on this deck's synchro package to put up things like Baron to actually protect the Fountain. You have Dispater in here as well. You have actually a decent amount of availability to you for the option trees for this. I really wish we could play a Pointer of the Red Lotus in here and actually get away with it. But overall, for this particular tournament results that you're seeing here, this is actually kind of crazy to actually see. So good stuff. Next up here, we deep dive into the Taiyo Championship, and this is our most interesting 2v2 or 2-deck format. Our 2-player tournament interaction, actually, which is always kind of interesting to see the ideas that they try out here to kind of make these tournaments work. This build's playing double Flamberge Dragon. You gotta love to see actual pure Snake Eyes actually doing its thing. Maximize triple Bonfire, triple Wanted. I can't wait for this deck to get banned in early April. You do see the Heavy Storm Feather Duster, the Dramatic Chase. You know, I do like Dramatic Chase. It never felt like it caught on here in the TCG, though. Like, it is an extremely good card when it needs to be, but I don't know, these builds just opted to not have to rely on it, which is fine. You're also side decking a singular Droplet. It's probably as a cross-out target or a defensive option, depending on the matchup. So that's actually kind of hilarious that you're seeing that level of foresight. Next up here is, holy crap, man, we actually have some Pendulum Magicians here. I don't know what's been up with Pendulum Magicians recently in the OCG, but this deck, for whatever reason, it's been having what feels like a resurgence here. And I don't know if it's just like the play lines have become stronger, the end boards are all that much better, but like Moral Savage, Crystal Wing, so we're playing the Predapower in here. Of course, you gotta love the little inclusion of Zark so you can feed into the Supreme King stuff. Teehee. One Astrograph, pretty standard. You have the little mini Odd Eyes Vanilla Monster in here as well. One Electromite, one Exceed, and one Beyond the Pendulum. I believe I've seen some builds try two Beyond the Pendulums, but this deck, if it gets stopped while it's climbing up, it's just like, all right, well, we'll divert down the next line here. It's usually got enough gas to keep going. I mean, you're already playing one cross out, two cold buy to keep going. So easy stuff here. Oh boy, Melodious. This is Supreme King Melodious. And so basically we're using the Supreme King Pendulum stuff in here for like a consistency backbone to also interact with your scales and things like that. And also, I mean, if this deck high rolls the Ostinato on the opening hand, this deck is just off to the races. Like, I have learned after having watched this deck do its thing that if you see Ostinato, you are golden. Like, the deck just really does not care, man. Like, you are able to just play through some of these crazy fields or at least set up into some of these things. They're also playing one Concerto, 100% searchable. Like, the things that this deck can do personally are very interesting to me. So, Supreme King Melodious. Gotta love Electromite shenanigans, man. Yes, more fire. What I love in my day. Maximizing on triple Kieran. Of course, I mean, that's pretty normal. You do have full Fire King package in here. Actually, is triple Kieran? Maybe two? The OCG does love playing the one Amalgamation in the main deck to do like a full little wipe. Of course, I also find that kind of interesting, the choices that they've dedicated to for the full board breaks along the way with that. And then, of course, you do see Gamma Delta down there in the side deck. Do I need to tell you how good Delta can be some days? And of course, in real fashion, the OCG loves that double Change of Heart. Break your opponent's board, Change of Heart edition. Just take their monster and call it on over to your field. You know, don't have to worry about any of the real little insanity that comes along with that. If the problem's on your field, now you can do whatever you want with it. It's actually a pretty good choice. We have Mathmech. Just kidding. It's adding Nister with one circular. You know, the fact that we see this deck being as successful as it is in the OCG, it really does catch my attention and go, wow, you know, had circulars stuck around, could we have seen things like this in the TCG actually doing their thing? I mean, how many Giga Firewalls can you go through is kind of what this deck is. And I mean, you have 3 of them in there for the full bursting damage. All right, next up here, on the same team is another Ignister Mathmech. You mean to tell me that you had 2 Mathmech players on this team opting to be successful? Yeah, it actually looks that way. Once again, this puts me in a very, very happy mood to see. I know Circular was a broken card, but man, oh man, I did love seeing just the little guy keeping Mathmech, or excuse me, Ignister together. Okay, what else we got back here? We have Ritual Beast. Now this is what I'm talking about. Like, the double shifter really carries this deck. If you see a shifter on into the high roll, your opponent's gonna be like, what just actually happened to me? Well, unfortunately, you got Yu-Gi-Oh! And once again, the double Kana Hawk, basically, I know a lot of people are like, but Rob, you don't want to play triple? No. Most of these OCG builds, calling for 2, Don't try to push the boundaries of the things that are already normalized, or you're going to have a bad time out here. And we have Runick Stun on the back end back here as well, sporting off Yield Border. You see the double dimensional fissure in the main deck. The double there can only be one, and then one Rivalry, one goes in, one skill drain. Alright, wow. They are definitely forced to play some interesting stuff. Not even triple card demise is letting this deck carry on. It's got some issues right now in its current state of the meta. So, what an interesting meta walk away here. So what do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.